So what most people do is they skip breakfast entirely and they fast all day till 12 or 1 or 2 p.m. to have their first meal. And then they go through their day and they end up eating dinner at 7 or 8 o'clock, maybe even 9, right before bed. And that's kind of their eating window. It's from 2 to 8 or 2 to 10. And that's completely backwards.
All right, welcome to Quest for Keys, where we highlight key moments in entrepreneurs' lives that unlock doors on their path to success. I'm your host, Hoan and joining me is the ever-inspiring Alvin Wee. Today, we have a real-life superhero, and I say that because he saves lives through his work as a functional medicine practitioner and clinical nutritionist. But what I think our guest is best known for is his super unique breathwork exercises. He's been able to help thousands of people around the world improve their lives, dissolve their egos, get clarity on priorities, and ultimately create inner peace. So please help me welcome the man who made me cry, Mr. Ryan Kennedy. What's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for the kind intro, man. Stoked to be here with you guys.
Oh yeah,
yeah, man. You're like the Superman of the group. You belong to GoBundance, which is part of how we met you and how I met you. Actually, I met you before you joined GoBundance. Now I remember now. But man, you've been my hero. You've saved me multiple times. Just to let the audience know, I've been working with Ryan for a couple of years now, and he's practically changed my health direction. I've always focused on just, using traditional doctors. Like I'm with Kaiser, and I never felt like that was adequate until I reached out to Ryan. I didn't know what I was missing out on. So, man, Ryan, like I'm excited to have you on the show because our focus here is health, wealth, relationship, and you're like the god of health. So, man, I can't wait for people to know more about you. So why don't we start there, man? Let's get a little background on what led you to become what you do now.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Alvin. My journey is a bit of a pain to purpose process, man. I did not grow up in a healthy family. When it comes to longevity and health span, I have terrible genetics, guys. By the time I was in the 4th grade, all of my grandparents, all 4 grandparents were dead, all from chronic illness, none from like tragic accidents. When I was in high school, I was about 14 at the time. My mom, who was seemingly healthy, she was overweight, but no prior health problems, was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, I was a young guy. I was like, well, surely her oncologists or doctors, they're going to help her, give her the right treatment. She's going to be all good. And I remember her going through this process of conventional treatment, what a lot of people call slash poison burn, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. And her oncologist telling her, what you eat doesn't matter. No vitamins or herbs or natural therapies can help you. Like you have one option here. Do these conventional treatments and hope for the best. And she did. She listened. This was back before the widespread use of, social media and the internet, and when people were, not doing as much of their own research back in 2008. And so I watched her go through this process. And unfortunately, in 2010, she passed away in large part because of the misinformation she received, guys, not just with the treatment options, but also the terrible recommendations she was following for decades leading up to that point, with shitty food guide pyramids, swapping out butter for margarine and eating lots of whole grains and all the stuff that we can look back on today and kind of scoff at and be like, man, I can't believe people did this stuff. But we were a standard American family just, following the mainstream recommendations. And shortly after that, my dad got cancer. Thankfully, he's alive and well today. But it really was an eye-opening experience for me where I really realized as a young guy, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I watched my mom go through this journey. And during that process, she didn't care about what car she was driving or what house we lived in or any career goals or material possessions. None of that stuff really matters, man, when you're in that type of situation. You just want to survive and spend time with your loved ones and be there for your family. And that was a really big unlock for me, realizing what really matters in our life. I love the proverb, someone with their health has 1,000 dreams and someone without it has just one. And so that got me interested as a young guy and just in wellness. I wasn't fit at the time. I wasn't healthy myself. I had skin issues and gut problems, and was going through some mental health challenges as a young person. And so I was like, I got to figure this shit out. And so I pursued kinesiology in my undergrad and was deep into the fitness, physical therapy world. And I was working in a physical therapy clinic and realized pretty quick, this is great. I love biomechanics. I love helping people on the physical element. But I'd have patients coming into my clinic, guys, and they weren't eating well. They weren't prioritizing sleep. They weren't doing any lab testing. They weren't addressing any stress or environment or any of these other lifestyle variables that really make a huge impact on your health, right? And so they weren't seeing that great of results. And so that's when I went back to school. I studied naturopathic and functional medicine in postgrad. And that brings me to where I'm today, where I take a more broad, holistic lens at wellness and understanding that all these different things are interconnected. They all impact how you feel, how you perform, how long you live, how well you live. And so it's what I focus on today. I help badass entrepreneurs like you two get dialed in with all these different elements of your hormones, your gut health, your brain function, your recovery, your energy levels, your body composition, all these different things that, in my opinion, is the foundation of our life.
It's an incredible thing to bring that up, because like up until, I surrounded myself with a lot of, successful entrepreneurs, did I realize that, health is the most important thing. Wealth is nothing. Relationship is nothing unless you have your health. Last year I lost my brother to cancer. He was only 46. And, and I quickly realized, man, like, a healthy person has over 1 million wishes, but a dying person only has one. And that made me realize, why am I not spending more time devoting myself to being more in physical health when that's like the number one thing? You can't do anything without your health. And so a lot of us forget that, especially us Asians, like we're always about trying to spend the least amount of money. That's why we have insurance. And like we're focusing on like, hey, that's too expensive. I'm not going to do that. If it's not covered by insurance, I'm not going to do it. And I had to like break that barrier in my own mindset about like, man, I should be spending more money because it's necessary. So, I wanted to ask you, Ryan, like, in your opinion, you've come across a lot of people. What is their reasoning to approach you in the first place? Is it because they've already had issues, or did you have to unlock their minds just for you to justify your services? Is that like a challenge that you're facing?
Not usually, Alvin. Usually by the time people come to sign up with me or inquire about my private practice and working together, they already have motivation. And that could be from a pain. That could be because they're experiencing fatigue or headaches or sleep problems or, digestive issues or any number of other symptoms, right? So that's coming from a place of, I have these health challenges that I want to fix. Or it can come from the other end of, I want to optimize, right? I don't have any debilitating problems. I don't have any chronic diseases presently, but I want to feel my best, right? If you can improve my brain function and energy by 10%, that's going to translate to huge returns in their business, their family, everything that they do. And, a lot of people I work with realize that. They realize that if I invest in myself, I invest in my performance and my quality of life and how I function every day, everything else is going to improve. It's truly the baseline. And I don't offer like business coaching, man, but working with a lot of these business owners by helping them have more clarity, better focus, better productivity, better recovery, better vitality day to day. Dude, they're like, Ryan, my business has skyrocketed since we've been working together because I'm just showing up better every day. So those are both ends of the spectrum, man. I mean, people come to me for all sorts of reasons, but I would say it's a blend between fixing a challenge versus optimizing an opportunity.
Now, diving on that, so do you think there's a direct correlation? Man, I can't even say anything today. But to health in your mindset and your brain health to just being overall doing better in business, is that like a direct scientific thing there that you have uncovered?
No doubt about it, man. It's a no-brainer. I mean, listen, I'm sure you guys have experienced days where your energy is a 4 or 5 out of 10 versus 10 out of 10. How much more did you get done though, on days where you're feeling just boundless energy? I mean, dude, if you're super focused, you can get more done in a 4-hour time block than most people do in a 40-hour work week who are distracted and not really on their A game. And also just thinking to illness, right? If you catch 2 or 3 colds a year, maybe you catch a flu once a year, and you're out of commission a total of 10 or 15 days of the year, like that's a lot of opportunity cost. And for some people, it's much greater. And then same thing relates to a lot of other variables, just in terms of your mindset, your confidence, how you show up in the world. If you feel good about, in your own skin, if you feel confident in your physical body, it's going to impact your dynamic with other people that you're communicating with. And likewise, people know you can't buy fitness. You can't pay just to have muscle and low body fat percentage. So they know, hey, if this person is fit, they're a disciplined person. It's a barometer for people to judge that you are someone that follows through on your commitments, you do hard shit, and you actually accomplish something, which in this case is physical wellness and physical fitness. That impacts how people see you in the business world. And so I think it's multifactorial, but it's a no-brainer that when you're dialed in, it's going to impact your work and your career and your business in a very positive way.
I definitely outsource my push-ups to Alvin. So, but you were talking about energy, and that is a really big topic because I think more people want more energy. I think a ton of people want a lot of energy because that's why Starbucks is so popular, right? They're selling coffee because people need energy. Alvin's drinking coffee right now because he doesn't have enough energy. So what is a more holistic approach to gaining more energy other than, say, sleeping more? Because let's say you have a kid in March and then the kid wakes up every 2 hours, right? And you're not going to be able to get your ideal amount of sleep. What does a person do to maintain their energy in every other way?
It's an awesome question, Hoan, because I think energy is the currency of life. Like it impacts everything we do. So a couple things that are big unlocks. Number one is your light environment, meaning if you're spending all day under artificial junk lights, like overhead fluorescents and LEDs, and you're in front of screens all day, it's going to really decrease your energy, your mitochondria function. Now, we're not talking about caffeine. We're not talking about stimulants. We're talking about cellular energy production by way of producing ATP via the Krebs cycle. Like this is how your baseline energy is produced. And our mitochondria, these cellular power plants that produce energy, are really maximized and recharged from near infrared light we get from the sun. So getting outside is tremendously helpful. And that could be in the morning to watch the sunrise, really beneficial. That could be midday going for a walk without your shirt on or laying out in your backyard for 15 minutes. You don't need it to be outside all day long, but just these little bits of sun exposure, unbelievably helpful for your energy and your brain chemicals like your dopamine and your serotonin to just feel better. So that's a huge unlock. Movement is also really big. When our bodies are in motion, we have more blood flow to the brain. So sitting on your ass all day is not going to be great for your energy. Whereas if you take periodic breaks to go walk around, to do a quick trigger session, like a set of push-ups or something to get your heart rate up, get your blood flowing, really going to impact your energy in a positive way. Nutrition is a huge one, man. This is where I think most people go wrong, is they eat a bunch of highly processed foods for breakfast or lunch, where they're ingesting bagels or croissants or all sorts of other breakfast foods that are really just desserts, branded as breakfast foods like pancakes and muffins. I mean, muffins are just cake, dude. You're eating cake for breakfast. And so that's a big reason that people feel so lousy later in the day is they skyrocket their blood sugar. The body releases all this insulin and it leaves them feeling brain fog and fatigue and lethargic and not good. So what you eat makes a big difference in your energy levels. And then there's a number of other factors that we could dive into in terms of nutrient deficiencies and having enough zinc and copper and B vitamins on board. Because if you're dealing with nutrient deficiencies, like if you're low in vitamin B6 or vitamin B12, guess what? Your energy is going to suck, because this is really important for energy metabolism. And I could probably rattle off 20 more things on, but those are some common things that people could do that are either really cheap or free to make a meaningful difference in their day to day.
Got it. All right. So if a person is having a regular breakfast of pancakes and muffins and all those kind of things, but then they want to change it up, what should someone eat? Because it's not clear, because everything labeled breakfast food is what you mentioned that we shouldn't eat. So what should people be focusing on?
My favorite breakfast is a smoothie. It's easy on the digestive system because your body diverts energy to break down food. And if you're having a heavy breakfast with eggs and bacon and avocado and all these heavy fats and heavy proteins, even though you don't have any carbs, it's not spiking your blood sugar per se, you're still going to feel weighed down by that meal because your body's diverting so much energy to break it down. So I like to have something light and high protein. And a smoothie checks that box where it's super easy to make. You can add in some frozen blueberries, good quality protein powder. As far as vegetables, I like to put in some, like a handful of baby carrots or like peeled cucumber, because it doesn't make your smoothie taste terrible the way kale and spinach do. And leafy greens are pseudo health foods. They're not good for you, despite what people think. And you blend this sucker up, liquefy it with a little water or coconut milk, and you're off to the races. And what I recommend for most of my patients and what I do myself is I'll put in one of those stainless steel water bottles so it stays cold, and I'll just sip it slowly over the course of like an hour or two. So you get this slow bleed of nutrition. You're absorbing more of the vitamins and minerals. You're not overwhelming your gut to, work overtime on digestion. And that leaves you feeling the same level of energy and focus as if you're fasting, which is why a lot of people love intermittent fasting and skip breakfast because they feel better focus and energy. But you're getting all the nutrition as well to balance out your stress hormones, to maximize your testosterone, and to give your brain and body the fuel it needs to function optimally. So that's a prime example, a very specific one of what I have for breakfast 6 days a week. It's rare I don't have a smoothie, and I just think it's a game changer for most people. Now, alternatively, there's a dozen other options I could tell you that would fit within this criteria. You could have some, Greek yogurt and some berries as an example of something that's light, high protein, easy to digest. You could also incorporate other foods, more traditional breakfast foods, like a lean breakfast meat, like a turkey sausage and a couple eggs would be appropriate as well here. And I mean, there's just no limit to the number of options. It's just a matter of finding something that's easy, quick, that you enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy it, it's only a matter of time before you say, F this stupid breakfast that Ryan told me, I don't want to eat this anymore. And also something that, makes you feel great, because we're really fueling our bodies for performance during the day. You should not be eating for indulgence first thing in the morning.
Let's touch on fasting, because that's something that I've been doing. Intermittent fasting, something I do. And initially, a lot of people think that fasting is all about just weight loss. And, can you explain that fasting is actually a lot more than just weight loss? That there's actually some, that your body is actually in, I guess, recovery or reset because of it. Can you explain that to the audience?
Yeah, a number of benefits that you get from, what we're talking about here is having a compressed eating window, right? So intermittent fasting is what it's referred to as, where you're just not eating around the clock. You have, a time of day you eat, let's say, 6 or 8 hour window. And then outside of that, you're just drinking water and maybe having some coffee. A lot of the benefits, Alvin, are derived from being in a calorie deficit. So the weight loss element is a real part of the benefits you get from intermittent fasting. But to your point, you also get other benefits, especially if you do a slightly longer fast, where you get this cellular cleanup called autophagy, kills off precancerous cells, dysfunctional cells. You get this cell turnover that's very helpful for your long-term well-being. It gives your digestive system time to heal and recover and regenerate, because you're not bombarding it with food and processing food all day. You're actually giving it time to recover. And then there's a number of other kind of lower key benefits that could be beneficial for people. I'd say, though, the bulk of the benefits do come that you're just consuming less food, right? You're not clogging up your system in this big caloric surplus, developing more body fat, and, in this energy surplus state. So it actually is a lot derived from that. But I will say one thing on intermittent fasting, guys, most people do it all wrong. They backload all their calories. So what most people do is they skip breakfast entirely and they fast all day till 12 or 1 or 2 p.m. to have their first meal. And then they go through their day and they end up eating dinner at 7 or 8 o'clock, maybe even 9, right before bed. And that's kind of their eating window. It's from 2 to 8 or 2 to 10. And that's completely backwards. You derive so many more benefits by front loading that eating window, because during the first half of the day is when our bodies need fuel, right? That's when we're most active. We're most metabolically active during the first half of the day. And by not eating anything, you're driving up your stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And so by having some nutrition earlier in the day, it's far more beneficial in the long run. The other thing is, at night, before you go to bed, is when you don't need all these calories. We're pretty sedentary, especially when you're sleeping, right? That's the lowest expenditure state any of us go through. And so by ingesting all this calories, all this fuel right before bed, you're converting a lot of that into fat storage and impacting your sleep quality negatively. So by shifting that forward, guys, you're going to enable your body to have better sleep quality, better recovery, better gut health, better body composition. And so an optimal eating window would be like from, let's say you're trying to pick an 8-hour window. It'd really be from like 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 rather than from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you're choosing that same 8-hour window, just shifting it forward a few hours really benefits people.
It's funny you mentioned that because like when I first, before I first started working with you, like I always thought like sleep was something that was challenging to me, and I would eat later at night just because I'd feel like I could sleep better when I eat late. But then I quickly realized that you were telling me you're doing it the wrong way. And when I started actually stopping my last meal at around 6 or 7, I actually found myself that I can sleep better. So, you touched on that a little bit. Like, can you explain how that works?
Like I mentioned prior, your body's diverting energetic resources to break down food. Okay. This is a very energy intensive process to break down that meal. And we don't want your body's energy resources going towards digestion at night while you're sleeping. We want it going towards repair, rejuvenation, detoxification, all these other things that take place while we're sleeping. So it's going to really help to maximize your sleep quality. The other thing is when you're digesting, it's going to increase your heart rate. It's going to worsen your HRV, your heart rate variability. It's going to negatively impact your ability, your nervous system's ability to drop into these deeper stage 3 and stage 4 levels of sleep, REM sleep and deep sleep. And so you're going to spend more time in light sleep, which is not as restorative. It's also more likely that you have wake ups during the night and you're just not going to feel as good. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced having a big meal and then going right to bed. You feel shitty, man, especially, throughout the night when you wake up. Whereas if you have a dinner at 6 and you go to bed at 10:30, you feel light, you feel good. Your stomach is pretty much empty. Like you could subjectively tell the difference. And then if you track your sleep with like an Oura ring or a Whoop strap and you look at the data, it is night and day. The difference in your sleep quality from having a late night dinner or a late night snack right before bed versus eating earlier, 3, 4, 5 hours before bed.
How soon after waking up should you have your first meal? So you said something like 9 to 5 window. Okay. So
yeah, whenever you start to feel hungry. So you do not need to be stuffing food in your face the second you get out of bed. We're in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 hours after you wake up. So if you wake up at 6 a.m., having breakfast sometime around 9, 9:30, 10 is usually a good fit. That gives you the morning to focus on your highest priority tasks, maybe get some exercise in, get something going with your body, and then having some sort of smoothie or breakfast at that point afterwards.
What's your opinion on coffee?
I love it, man.
Okay.
I tend to drink more tea. I find yerba mate is superior to coffee in terms of the benefits. You get a better energy boost. It's more stable energy. There's no crash later. It's more hydrating. So I drink yerba mate tea probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 days a week. And then I'll have coffee once or twice a week. But if you're drinking good quality coffee is ridden with pesticide residue. It's one of the most heavily sprayed crops with pesticides and herbicides. And it also is very prone to mold toxins. And these mycotoxins are super shitty for your body. So quality sourcing is of the utmost importance with coffee. So don't go getting Charbucks. Don't go to get terrible, just store-bought coffee. You want to buy organic, good quality coffee beans. Peak Performance is my favorite brand of coffee. It's absolutely fantastic, high altitude, organic coffee. But assuming that's in place it could be a perfectly healthy part of your lifestyle. Having a couple, 1 or 2 cups of coffee in the morning, there's nothing wrong with that.
Do you drink the coffee or the yerba? What was it? Yerba mate?
Yerba mate.
Or yerba mate?
Yerba mate.
Okay. Yeah, the yerba mate or the coffee, do you have that before your smoothie or breakfast? Or
yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I have it in the morning. So I'll wake up and go through, kind of my morning protocol. And then I'll typically have a cup of tea, like yerba mate tea, 45 minutes maybe or so. If I wake up at 5:30, I'm usually drinking tea by 6:30.
Got it. All right.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about your superpower, man. It's really about how you are able to make grown-ass men cry and change their lives and turn them into freaking T-Rex in the middle of your breath work. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe some more context so it doesn't sound like I'm abusing people. It would be great.
You are.
Yeah. At a high level with that description, people could really get the wrong impression of what I'm doing. But yeah, breath work is a powerful tool, man. It really helps, complements the functional medicine stuff I do, Alvin, because it works on the mindset, the mental and emotional side of the equation, which is really the driving force to physically changing your life, physically changing your body, right? It all starts in the mind. All behavior change all starts with the mindset. And so one of the most powerful tools I've developed or found is a long form rhythmic breathing called holotropic breath work. And the specific modality I teach, I call peak state breath work. And it's very different than Wim Hof. It's very different than calming like box breathing or nasal breathing, things that are very valid for their purpose of calming you down or helping you feel more centered or helping you meditate. But it's a much more intense experience. And the easiest way I can describe it is it's kind of like a plant medicine ceremony with no drugs, right? It helps you really break down these walls that our minds and our brains have built around different areas of our life. And it helps you go deep and do deep healing. And it's the most powerful tool I've ever discovered for breaking through limiting beliefs, breaking through self-doubt, finding the priorities in your life and what really matters, experiencing more gratitude, better emotional balance. Most people that hear this and they're like, how could breathwork possibly have that impact on me? You just got to try it. It's hard to explain without you actually experiencing it.
I will say this. I will say this because you're absolutely right. Not only is it hard to explain, but it's hard to believe because those listening, prior to Ryan going through the breath work with me and all the other people that I was with, he was going, all right, some of you might experience crying and some of you guys might experience your hands locking up and turning into like little T-Rex arms and all of this stuff. And I was like, get out of here. Within the first 5 minutes, I am bawling my eyes out. My hands lock up and I'm crying loudly to the point where Ryan comes over and he's like, bro, are you okay? He has to get me a tissue. And it was just like, what is going on? So he is absolutely right. It's like a plant medicine, right? One of those trips. It's like that. But I don't know. I can't say like 10 times crazier or whatever. But yeah, it was just like, it was incredible.
Yeah, it's a very heart opening experience. When people they're describing how they cry, the reason is because it allows you to really tap into your emotions. It allows you to really feel these feelings that, in everyday states of consciousness, we suppress. And it allows us to feel, people will cry from a place of just love and gratitude and happiness. People also cry in the sense of really processing hardships in their life, the loss of a loved one, different emotional challenges with their spouse or with their kids, different elements. The human experience, as beautiful as it is, has a lot of hard elements. And suppressing those things and bottling it up is a reason why so many people struggle to really love deeply, to really open their heart to other people in their lives. And this is such a powerful catalyst to allow you to process these things in a healthy way, which opens you up to just deeper love and deeper connection and deeper relationships with your friends, with your family, with your spouse, with everyone. And so it's such a powerful tool. And I'd say it's so much better than plant medicine, Hoan, after exploring a lot of these different, tools, because you're sober. You're not high as a kite, and you have control of this experience, man. Like you're not like drinking this ayahuasca or taking these mushrooms. And next thing you know, for 4 hours, you're pretty much hoping for the best because there's no going back. With breath work, you are in control. You could ramp up or ramp down the intensity of the experience however you wish. You can stop at any point and it goes away within minutes. It's a very controlled way to experience these benefits with a very low risk. I mean, you're lying on the floor breathing. Everyone does more dangerous shit in their lives, than lying on the floor breathing. So it's a very low risk way to kind of step beyond your day-to-day, waking state and experience these amazing shifts. And the way I use it with my patients, guys, very just as one aside, like you experienced a journey with me that was very much so centered around deeper love. But I have all these different breathwork journeys I've developed with different intentions, different music, different guidance as far as the spoken word that I'm infusing in these journeys. And the one that I find most helpful that applies for a lot of entrepreneurs is around breaking through on mindset. Most people feel like they struggle with their habits, whether it be exercise, eating well, avoiding alcohol, or maybe their work habits, staying focused on their business. They think they struggle because they're too tired or they're too busy or a million other excuses. But the real reason most people struggle with their habits and with these, healthy practices they want to adopt is because of their identity. There's a mismatch in their identity with who they feel like they are. And it creates this divide that causes them to self-sabotage, that causes them to basically fall off the wagon, so to say, with these different things. And when you go deeper into this breath work, and the specific breakthrough one I have, it hones your mindset in a way that has been the most transformative thing I've ever seen for breaking bad habits, building good ones, and making lasting change in your life. So it's an awesome compliment to, a lot of the work that I do, because it gets people the mindset changes they need to apply all the physical protocols I designed for them based on their lab testing and all their functional medicine data.
Ryan, would you mind, not right now, but towards the end of the episode, showing us how to do the breath work? And for those listening who want to know how to do the breath work, you have to listen to the whole episode, because we're going to put it in the middle somewhere, but closer to the end, so that we can get a whole bunch of listen time for the YouTube algorithm. But could you show us a little later, like how you do it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But I do want to dig into something that you said, this identity thing that you talked about. It's a mismatch of identity, right? I think Alvin was like, and it pinged my ear too. How is it that we have a mismatch in identity? So like, let's say I'm struggling with doing the things that I know I'm supposed to do in terms of my business, right? I say I'm an entrepreneur, and then I got to go do entrepreneurial work. So where's the mismatch in identity? What do you mean by that?
Well, it could manifest in different ways for different people, but there's usually a feeling deep inside you that you're not good enough. You're not worthy. There's some level, and it could be 1 out of 10, it could be 5 out of 10, it could be a 10 out of 10. But there's something deep inside you, whether you realize it, and listen, you don't realize it consciously. Most people don't. Most people don't realize consciously that they don't feel like I'm worthy of achieving this, or that I have what it takes to achieve that. But there's this deep subconscious pattern that's been built in your minds, whether it's from a bully at school, or your parents and the way you were raised, or a sibling, or someone along your path as a child. It made you feel like you weren't good enough. You weren't capable of achieving the success that you're going after. And that is what's holding you back. And it manifests as, okay, I'm going to go and spend 2 hours working on this thing on my business. And instead you find yourself on social media or some other distraction. And you're like, why does this keep happening to me? Well, there's physical reasons, and there's lots of chemical reasons of why you may not be as focused as you'd like to be. But there's also the deeper subconscious patterns that are disrupting your drive and your ability to really execute and follow through.
Wow. It's like, it's getting my brain working like, okay, on a level of 1 to 10, how much am I feeling not good enough for the role that I am playing, right? Am I qualified to actually be what it is that I play in real life to be? It's neat. So now your breath work helps clear a lot of that out, right? Your breath work helps unlock some of that, because there's like, what we do is suppress a lot of feelings. And then I think you just get rid of all. It's like drinking alcohol almost, right? Any kind of inhibitions that you had, you just kind of like, okay, I'm free. So, and that's why we cry and all that kind of stuff. So does your breath work help people find that identity, or does it get rid of this imposter syndrome? What is it that the breath work is doing?
I mean, all of the above. It holds the potential for you to do all of these different things, Hoan. And that's why it's really difficult for me to explain, as far as like, hey, it's not like A plus B, you get C. It's like you can come in with an X and be going for a Z and come out the other end in an A. It's totally just opening up the door for you to drop the ego, drop all these barriers, drop all these things that you've built up in your in your conscious mind, and actually tap into what's deeper under the surface. And that's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, I've done your breath work like 3 or 4 times, and every single time I had different results and different outcomes. And the only thing that's consistent, I freaking cried every time. But but that's because it's so powerful and it's so tense, and definitely unlocks a lot of identity. It's interesting how you said that. Like, a lot of people are stuck to the identity, and seemingly so. Even for me, like, I still get stuck, and a lot of even high performers, overachieving entrepreneurs still get stuck. And it's amazing. Like, I'm still very curious too about ayahuasca and all that stuff. You touched that, this is just as good, or if not better, so I'm like curious now, like, to even bother with ayahuasca. There's some, I've heard stories about like people throwing up and things like that, but man,
well,
like,
that's least your worries, Alvin. You're almost guaranteed to throw up, but that's not actually the worry. But you're right. It is, those types of plants, those drugs really is what they are. Man, they come with a lot of potential for upside, but they also come with risks. It's like anything. And I think there's a lot that could be done without them for people using, this holotropic breathing technique. That I've had more people than I could count, you guys, who have done these plant medicine ceremonies and flown down to Peru or Costa Rica and done these, week-long retreats where they're taking all these different plant medicines, come to one of my breathwork classes. And in the course of 45 minutes, say that they got more out of that experience, just lying on the ground breathing, than they did from all these plant medicine ceremonies. So it really does hold the potential for an amazing outcome. And the data is clear. I survey people after my sessions. And so I have tons of survey data of people's, what they got out of it, the net promoter score, the level of transformation they experienced, the specific things that they got out of it. I mean, it's staggering, you guys, the success rate of this technique.
And how frequently should people visit this exercise? Should it be on a daily basis, weekly basis? Like, is there a frequency that you recommend?
Monthly is usually appropriate for the average person because it's a very intense experience, and it really is not. It takes about an hour from start to finish, so it's not exactly super quick. Now, it varies based on what you're going through. I've worked with people in my practice who are struggling with substance abuse, and this breath work is a fantastic tool to really help them with their sobriety. And I'll have them do it daily or multiple times a week. There's other people that are going through a breakup or a challenging time in their life or the loss of a loved one, and doing it more frequently is a really powerful tool, and it really helps them work through that challenging season in their life. But if you're just like, I feel pretty good, my life's going well, I just want to take it to the next level, I want to like experience it, I want to continue to generate clarity and ideas and creativity and work through past shit that's holding me back, once a month is what I found to be very effective as far as a cadence. Doesn't mean weekly is too much. You could absolutely do it weekly. And it doesn't mean you have to once a month. Some people come to my sessions once every few months. But that's kind of a general rule of thumb.
So it sounds like Hoan and I are going to be visiting you pretty soon, every month, right?
Yeah. Well, I host these online. I have my next session coming up soon. I don't know when this will be published, but I have people come from all across the globe. I mean, people in different countries will come to my online sessions. And we'll have hundreds of people doing this breath work online. And, while I find the in-person stuff is more valuable for some because you're in it, you're no distractions, you're able to go deep. A lot of students say that doing it at home is actually superior for them because they're in their own space. There's no one off to your left or right. You're able to really lean in and go all out. You're not worried about making noises or disrupting anyone around you. And they find that kind of safeness of their own space, while still delivering the same journey, right? I'm still giving the same music and guidance and, the same overall experience. They find they're able to go even deeper. So, I would highly encourage both of you guys to try my online session.
Is that a live?
I host a live one every month. So you can find it on my website, ryankennedyhealth.com. And then if you wanted to actually get on-demand access, 24/7 to be able to do these journeys, I have a series of them for different outcomes, different intentions. I offer it in my online courses. So I have a men's program and I have a women's program. And stacked alongside all this information on functional medicine, like nutrition and mindset and supplementation and lab testing and exercise and sleep and recovery and all these things. In addition to all those master classes, there's on-demand access to all my top guided breathwork journeys.
So we're gonna put all this in the show notes, guys. So we'll take our information later on. But I wanna ask you just to kind of change topics here a little bit. We talk about dragons and challenges here. These are things that kind of get in our way, or maybe things that we've challenged before and figured out. Is there like a challenge that you're facing right now, or in a dragon? Is there a dragon you're facing right now?
Lots of them, man. Yeah, I'm always facing challenges, and I look just like the next guy. I don't by any means have it all figured out, but as far as some specific ones, something I shared with you guys is I'm expecting my first child, which I'm unbelievably pumped about. So my wife is a little over 6 months pregnant, and as anyone who's had a pregnant wife knows, there's some challenges that can come with that. So that's something top of mind. But we're overall everything's going well. We're really grateful and blessed to be expecting a new addition to the family here in a couple months.
The little dragon.
Little. Oh man! Little do you know how big of a dragon this little person is.
Yeah. Well, I'll find out. I prefer, Hoan, if you just talked about the positive elements so that I can stay optimistic.
No, we got to make the bad sound really, really bad so that when things happen, you're just like, oh, that wasn't so bad, right? And then everything seems great. In terms of the dragons, though, like you're the guy who leads people to have their breakthroughs and to break through barriers and to dissolve egos and all that kind of stuff. How often are you like eating your own cookie, if you will? How often are you going through your own breath work? How often are you kind of challenging yourself to be better and work on the things that are holding you back?
I'm a huge believer in practicing what I preach, Hoan. So, as I sit here today, like I'm not like eating Oreos and sitting on my ass all day while I tell my patients to move their bodies and eat well. So I'm a big believer that I have to lead by example. And when it comes to some of the deeper inner work, I'm doing breathwork journeys myself. And sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly. It, again, ebbs and flows based on the season of life I'm in. But the reason I got into developing this technique, sharing this practice with others, is because it changed my life. I experienced my first breathwork class almost 10 years ago, and it totally just blew my socks off in what was possible. And I had this just deep healing, transformative experience. And ever since, I've been not only leading sessions, but also participating in breathwork myself. I do breathwork all the time in different modalities, and including these holotropic peak state sessions. And then, as far as like all the other elements too, I mean, I'm pretty dialed in as far as making sure that I'm taking good care of my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, and prioritizing all these things, man. Because I'm not just saying it. I truly believe this is the most important thing that we all can do.
Yeah, and do you do like your on-demand stuff? Like, do you practice your own stuff? It's kind of like. Okay, I was going to say it's kind of like
it's kind of like listening to your own podcast or something. You kind of like it brings up almost a little too much where I'm just like, oh, I'd like to change that, or I'd like to fix this, or it almost gets me into this mindset of like I want to improve the journey rather than just experiencing it as a participant. So I have a couple people whose breath works I'll do if I want to do something guided, who's I like, but oftentimes, Hoan, I'll just put on a playlist of music that really resonates with me, and I'll fire it in. I don't do a guided session as much as someone who's new to it would benefit from. I do almost like an open forum type breath work, right? And that's how I generated some of my best ideas, man. It's how I process big life decisions. It's how I really, get after it with this stuff.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask the same question. I'm glad you beat me to it. I was going to say, do you make yourself cry with your own voice? Like, But man, like this is there's a lot of information here, man. We can hit so many different angles here. But I kind of want to like hone back into like, like little, we talk about keys that unlock different doors here in our path. Like, is there a moment in your life that was pivotal for you, that sort of changed your direction? I know you talked about your mom and things like that, but is there something else that maybe our audience would want to know about your journey that may have changed directions? Because I know right now, like you started your own business and all that stuff, but anything entrepreneurial that may have been opened along the way?
I had a lot of really good mentors throughout the years, Alvin, and those have been the most pivotal relationships in my life. Don't get me wrong, I've learned things from everyone, but right out of I actually used to be in real estate, which I don't know if you even know this about me, but
Oh, I knew you did. I knew you did real estate. Let's touch on that. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, when I was in undergrad, I was going through my program at San Diego State University, and I was like, how can I make some money here? I didn't come from a wealthy family, and I was like, I don't want to rack up all this student debt. And so one of the things I did was I got into personal training and running a fitness business. But the other thing I did was I got licensed as a real estate agent. So I was like, man, I was doing the personal training thing and it was great. And I was making like $50 an hour at the time. This was, a long while ago where minimum wage was like $7 an hour. So I felt like that was pretty good. But one of my clients in the training was a real estate agent. And she was like, yeah, you should get licensed. It's like a weekend workshop, this and that. I'm like, well, shit, man, $10,000 commission sound better than $50 an hour personal training sessions. So I got licensed, started working at Keller Williams when I was 19. And I had a really good mentor at my office. And he gave me a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he's like, Ryan, listen, you're a young guy. You don't want to be just selling real estate. You want to be buying some yourself. And guys, this was like 2011, 2012, like the best time to be potentially buying real estate, yourself. And I could only see that in hindsight. But at the time I was like, yeah, that makes sense, And so I got some momentum going on as far as like the agent side of things and did well my first year and profited over 6 figures in commission income. And rather than buying like a sports car and blowing it like a young guy, normally would, I was looking for investment properties. And so I was able to start buying single family homes in my local market of San Diego when the getting was good, as they say. And I was buying houses for 300 grand, 350 grand in San Diego that are now worth over $1 million. And, another piece of advice I got in real estate was just buy good quality assets in good neighborhoods and just never sell them. And so I've never sold them. And I've just continued to buy and buy and buy over the last decade. And that has been a huge unlock on the kind of financial side. And then while I was going through this process, I realized, representing people as a realtor is not something I'm passionate about. I'm not fulfilled by this. This is not something that like really gets me out of bed every day that I'm pumped up to do. So that's when I was going back to school and really focusing more on the health and wellness because I saw it as my passion. And I really believe that, the quality of your life is determined by the impact you have on others. Those who help the most people live the best lives. And there's a lot of ways to help people. But I recognized for myself, at least, that's what was getting me freaking amped up, beyond the dollars and cents was like, how can I really have a meaningful impact and transform people's lives? And that's what I love about what I do, guys. I get to talk to awesome people like you and really be able to have a shift that totally turns them around as far as a 180 in terms of their quality of life. So those are some pivotal things that come to mind, Alvin. And, I had some other good mentors along the way and I continue to learn and grow. And I'm, getting involved in peer groups and masterminds and investing in myself has been a huge unlock as well. Just, I've paid a lot of money for, alternative education and learning about business and learning about investing and learning about health and wellness and all the things that you don't learn in school, even if you go to a good program. And that's been a huge accelerant of my journey. The other mentor I had was a naturopath here in San Diego who had been in practice for like 25 years when I met him. This was when I was just getting started. And I shadowed this guy and just absorbed everything like a sponge. And over the course of about a year, I was able to distill this guy's like near 3 decades of clinical experience helping people get well. And it just gave me this huge head start of not having to go through thousands and thousands of clinical hours to understand what really works in the real world, not in some textbook, not in some research study, but what works for real people in the real world and what really drives the needle, moves the needle forward. and his name was David Getoff. He was a great mentor to me, and just total unlock, and that just, as far as things people could apply to themselves, is just find someone who's doing something that you want to do and do whatever, pay whatever you have to pay to get around them and soak up as much as you can, because that's going to accelerate your learning curve like no other.
Wow. Yeah, mentors were a huge part of my journey as well as an entrepreneur, because they just go like, why are you doing that? No, this is how you do it. And it's just like when Super Mario goes through the warp pipe and he comes out like 7 levels ahead, it's just like, oh, duh, right? Because you can slog through a lot of wrong things for no reason. And only in hindsight do you realize you just wasted a lot of time. So yeah, mentors are huge. Do you mind going through the breath work and how physically to do it? Because if anybody's listening, they can maybe give it a try and see if they like it. And if they do, then they'll go to your program and sign up. So what is it
you
that
guys
you do?
Experienced my breath work. This is not something that just the technique is going to help people. I'm going to be honest with you. It's probably quite a letdown, but the technique is very simple. It's a 3-part breath. 2 inhales, 1 exhale, all in and out through the mouth. You inhale into the belly, you inhale into the chest, and then you let it all out. You rinse and repeat. It's just a rhythmic circular breathing pattern. And the breathing itself, while it does unlock physiological changes, in and of itself is only part of the equation, right? I think what really provides the magic sauce is the music, the intentions, the spoken word, the environment, the whole guidance component of it. So if you just sat there and did this breathing for 5 minutes, I wouldn't say, oh my God, breathwork's not for me. These guys talked about how it's so life-changing, and I just did this circular breathing Ryan talks about in my desk for 5 minutes and nothing happened. That's not really how it works. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of disservice for people to just try it randomly on their own for the inappropriate amount of time and not understand what really the potential it holds.
Right. And how long are the sessions typically? I think I forget how long the session that I did was, but how long do your sessions last for?
About an hour, but not all that is active breathing. I mean, that includes some, intentions on the front ends, 20 to 25 minutes of active breath work. I guide everyone through a visualization practice on the back ends. So it's the full meal deal is an hour, but that only includes maybe less than half of that is the active, intense breath work.
So maybe I'm going to ask you right now, Ryan, but is there a way maybe you can set up a link for our audience to kind of try out your program? There's a discount code or anything like that. We'll put that in the show notes. But
yeah, my online classes are not expensive. I mean, and if anyone ever wants to do it and they can't afford it, just email me. I'll get you in. I want everyone to have access to this type of healing modality. But I find the more people pay, the more they pay attention and the more likely they are to do it. So by charging $50 or $100, it's just enough for people to feel motivated, but it's not cost prohibitive for anyone to actually do it if they're invested in it. So those are the online classes. I'm also happy to put a link to my men's and women's programs if people want to dive deeper into that stuff.
Got it. We'll definitely grab it. Definitely grab all the links. We'll put them in the show notes. So I want to hit you with the triad of success there, Ryan. So here on this show, we believe that true success is built on 3 essential pillars, and that's health, wealth, and relationships. So how have you been able to create balance around these 3 pillars to have the incredible life that you have?
I mean, it's a pretty open-ended. I don't even know how to start by answering that, man. I think starting with the health was a big unlock for me. So I had the energy and vitality to get up and get after it on the business side to, build the wealth. So I think that's been the order of operations for me. I think most people do it the opposite way. They sacrifice their health in the pursuit of wealth and financial success, where they're not sleeping enough. They're stressed out of their minds. They're go. They're burning the candle at both ends, so to say. And they're gaining weight. They're not eating well. They're not exercising because they're just so, head down in their business, and they're trying to grow this company and they're trying to make it financially. And in the process, they really sacrifice their health. And in my eyes, it's backwards. I think that you're much better off improving your health. And honestly, these things are not going to take up all day. It's not like you're a bodybuilder living in the gym. Most of the workouts I design for my patients take 15 minutes from start to finish. You can incorporate really time efficient practices that get your health and your vitality and your quality of life optimized to allow you to step into your career or your business and really crush it and really excel. So that was, I don't know if that answers your question, but I focused on the health and then went into more of how I can create financial abundance for myself and my family and, impact the world in a positive way.
For somebody listening who is like, okay, guys, I get it. You have beaten this message into my head. I get it. I got to focus on my health. This person listening, they have high blood pressure. They're way overweight. They don't exercise. They don't eat right. Where do they start? A lot of people, believe it or not, they just kind of feel hopeless. They're like, dude, I am 280 pounds. Like, I get tired just walking from the front door to the couch. Like, I'm not in any shape to actually even do anything. So they feel hopeless. What do you say to that? How do people get started?
Yeah, the same advice I would give no matter what area of life someone's trying to improve, which is hire an expert. And I don't just say this because I'm in this profession. You don't have to hire me. There's lots of brilliant functional medicine practitioners in the world. There's lots of great naturopaths. There's lots of great clinicians. But really having someone in your corner, Hoan, who could interpret your lab data, see what your body actually needs, give you a structured, detailed approach of what to do and how to do it, and hold you accountable is immensely helpful for this journey because it's confusing as shit, man. You hear conflicting information left and right. You get overwhelmed by all the different options available to you, and it cripples people from taking action. And so the number one piece of advice I can give is to hire someone, hire a coach, hire a practitioner, hire someone that can help give you that sense of direction and can give you the step-by-step game plan in order to get to your goals and also that external accountability. Most people struggle, man, for a couple reasons. Number one is they lack that detailed guidance. They've heard the general stuff, move your body, eat less, sleep more, whatever. But it's like, okay, what do you do with that? That's very different than me saying, Hoan, here is your exercise program. You're going to work out from 7 to 7:30 at your home gym on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Here's the exercises. Here's the sets. Here's the reps. Here's the exact program for you to follow. That's very different than me saying, Hoan, you should work out more. Would you agree? Same thing with your nutrition. Saying, Hoan, you should eat better is very different than saying, all right, man, here's the exact thing you're eating for breakfast, the exact meal you're going to order for lunch. Oh, and when you go to this place you like for dinner, this is what I'm going to order on the menu. And I'm going to do this meal prep service that's just going to deliver these meals so I don't have to think about it. It's going to fit my macros and my goals. Very different than me just saying, hey, dude, eat better, eat healthier, eat cleaner. That doesn't help people, right? It doesn't give anyone guidance. So that's a big thing about it. And then the accountability is huge. Having someone outside of yourself. The truth is we lie to ourselves with alarming regularity, right? We say we're going to do something, we don't do it, and then we rinse and repeat. And this builds this process where we no longer value what we say to ourselves. Like we just lose all faith in our own word to ourselves. And having someone outside of yourself that's you respect, that's a big thing. Someone you respect that can hold you accountable to following through on this stuff makes a huge difference when you're feeling low levels of motivation or discipline. Having someone that you're reporting back to, that's in your corner, that's helping you through this process. Dude, that's where people should start.
That's incredibly fitting, man, because right now, I mean, we're recording this in December. People are always like having these New Year's resolution, New Year, new me, but then they never stick with it, and that's one thing that I actually enjoy about working with you the last couple of years, because the accountability factor is huge. Even for someone like me who's like a overachiever, is always trying to knock it out of the park. I fear it when I'm like, oh man, every quarter I got to do my blood check, and Ryan's going to kick my ass if I don't like meet the goals that I set, 3 months ago. So man, that to me is so worth it. That accountability is actually what's keeping me on check. It's keeping me in shape. And man, to me, that's actually the more powerful part of this whole thing. I love that part. And the fact that you not only teach breath work, the mindset, anytime I have I'm always like throwing, images on our chat saying, hey, Ryan, should be eating this. What do you think of this? And you always magically know the answer. It's like, you know a lot about every little thing. And I feel so, what's the right word here? I just feel so fortunate to have access to your knowledge and your expertise, man. I think everybody should have someone like you, if not you. And so, man, like, I'm just so thankful that you're actually on the show, because our point of this whole thing is to teach people about health leads to wealth and relationship. And, I just want to thank you for being on the show, man. I know it's like at the top of the hour. We want to respect your time. Is there anything else you want to tell our audience?
Well, thank you so much for the kind praise, Alvin. It means the world, man. And as far as other things, I would just say, take action. Start slow. Most people build up in their minds what needs to be done in order to see progress. They think I got to go to the gym for an hour, 5 days a week in order to get any progress in my fitness. And the reality is, you could do 5 minutes worth of push-ups and bodyweight squats in your living room floor and get great benefits, right? Like, you just need to get started. So lower that barrier to action. It's the number one piece of advice I could give people who are feeling that mental resistance, that resistance to getting started, that resistance to doing some of these things, is just do the mini versions of it. Don't plan a 6-hour hike. Go for a 15-minute walk around your neighborhood. Don't focus on, doing the optimal amount. Focus on doing what's reasonable and easy, what feels easy for you, to build that momentum, to build that habit. And then you can always increase volume and increase intensity from there. But you just got to get started.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. How can people find out more about you? What's your website? What's your social handles?
RyanKennedyHealth.com. You can find everything there, as far as, if I do all telemedicine. So if you want to work together on some capacity, happy to be a resource. I post lots of stuff on my own podcast, Ryan Kennedy Show, and YouTube and Instagram. And if you just search my name, it should come up.
Wow. Well, this episode was awesome, because this episode is talking about the one thing that really, really, really matters. That's your health. Because if you're not here, you're not healthy, nothing else really matters. All right, guys. Thank you guys all for listening to another Quest for Keys episode. We will see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace, guys.